name's Perrin Underwood, and I'm a freshman at Georgia Southern, and I chose the Qin Dynasty, which I would say my reasoning for picking this dynasty was in the reading. I felt like all the other dynasties had way more information and things to read about them. That kind of gives you more insight on like how the dynasty actually was. But I feel like for this one I had to do some more expanded research to kind of really understand what it was like in that dynasty and like how they lived. My initial assumption on the dynasty, which is also a reason I would say I picked it, was because I thought it was going to be a peaceful dynasty, because in the article of the reading that we got provided to for class, it mentions how he had to end the Warring States period, but that was a bloody time period. But because that was so bloody and painful for a lot of people, he didn't want it to ever be like that again, which he put in writing. So that kind of made me assume that this dynasty was going to be a more peaceful and not so like harsh and punishful, which I was wrong. It very much was punishable and strict, which was something new for me to learn, with like the social standards there. Like they were just really strict, and they believed in the punishing your family. Like, let's say I were to do a crime, then my whole family would be punished, which I think is pretty extreme. So that was something that kind of changed my mind about my general assumption. I would think my favorite things that I learned about with the Qin Dynasty was learning more interesting facts about the Terracotta Army tomb and how they used colors and how purple was a chemical reaction to only in China at the time, which was really fascinating to learn about. And then I also liked just learning about how their culture was there, and then the fact that this dynasty was the start of the Great Wall of China, which is really significant to Chinese history. So I thought that was really interesting. One thing that I did learn that I didn't mention in my paper that I actually just figured out through my research was concubines were a normal part of political and social standards there, which I didn't write about that in my paper, but that was one thing that really stood out to me that I found expanding on my research. And concubines were basically women who would be chosen randomly from generals looking around for women for the emperor to basically pleasure the emperor. And they would never, some concubines would never even see the emperor, what he looked like or anything. And then a common thing that they practiced so that the concubines wouldn't be allowed to leave or run away from the palace was they would do foot binding, which a lot of women, Chinese women today, still have issues with like recent practices of foot binding because smaller feet were considered attractive in that time, which I thought that was a really interesting thing to learn. Yeah, I really liked learning about that, and I just thought it was really interesting. And I believe there was only one emperor that had one wife that he was actually loyal to, which is really fascinating to learn about too. I would say like my views and perspectives on the dynasty did change from the beginning of my perspective, going back to how I thought it was going to be a more peaceful. Yeah, so going back to what I said in the beginning with how I thought the Qin Dynasty was going to be peaceful because of what he wrote about him not wanting it to be a warring state period anymore, and he wanted China to stay all unified. That just gave me the assumption of peace and like, I don't know. But definitely doing more research, my opinion on that changed, and I would not say the Qin Dynasty was peaceful, really. But yeah, that was interesting to kind of figure out pretty soon on in my paper. But overall, this project has definitely deepened my appreciation for Chinese history and Chinese dynasties. Even after this paper, I still am watching videos about other dynasties because it's really fascinating how they're all incorporated with each other and how they impacted China and how it is today. So I thought it was very interesting writing about this topic. At first I was kind of disappointed because I didn't think I was going to find it that interesting, but once I started on my paper, I really started to enjoy the topic, and I definitely would love to write another paper about a different Chinese dynasty. So overall, I really liked this project, and I feel like it definitely deepened my perspective and education on Chinese dynasties, and not even just the Qin dynasty. So yeah, I definitely liked how organized this project was. It definitely helped me sort out what all I was gonna put in a research paper, because I feel like if we didn't have the prompts, my paper would have been all over the place with random facts. So but I really did enjoy doing this project and learning about this unit.